Hi everyone, welcome to session 5 of the RIAK to the Limit series. Apologies for the slightly late coming on air. Had a technical issue, and by that I mean everything stopped working. So I'm impressed with myself getting that ready. So just go out 15 seconds until we get started. Starting off with a nice, easy 10-minute warm-up. But yeah, welcome everybody. If this is your first time with us, these are some cracking sessions. Well, I think so anyway. So we're going to start off with a nice kind of 10-minute warm-up. Every 2 minutes we'll crank the power up by about 6 to 10 watts. Those 3 initial spikes, very short, sharp, fast pedaling efforts. Okay. So the idea behind those is just to really spin your legs up, get the fast twitch muscle fibers going, and basically just kind of, get you going, ready for the hard work ahead. So, as I say, if you're new to these sessions, the To the Limit series, basically, it's kind of trying to cover all your bases, really. If you've got a limited amount of time to train, perhaps you've only got time for the one high intensity session, then this is going to really do the job for you. So it tends to be a mix of threshold and VO2 max work, although as we kind of progress our way through the series, we'll have some kind of sprint and anaerobic stuff thrown in as well. Now this session is an absolute belter. I love this session. I was thinking about it before coming on. I don't actually know. I think this might be my favourite session. And it's simply because it does so much for you. You know, you've got some cracking, you accumulated some cracking near threshold work, also kind of pushing it just above with some VO2 max efforts. But it's basically because it's quite dynamic, you accumulate some really great work without kind of really thinking about it. So yeah, I absolutely love this session, and we set it very pretty regularly for our athletes. Which just reminds me, I haven't really done an introduction. So for anyone that is new, my name is Rich. I'm the head coach and founder of RIAK Fitness. We're a coaching outfit looking after triathletes and cyclists and anyone mad enough to get involved with endurance events generally. So yeah, we set this workout fairly often for our guys because it's, you know, we can manipulate it in various different ways to make it harder or easier. But it's just, fantastic kind of blend of threshold and VO2 max work. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy this one. For anyone that's interested in their quantification of training scores, TSS, training stress score, using Training Peaks or any other platform, we're at 68 TSS today, so just one step up from the last week's session, and then we can continue a similar sort of progression as we go through the remainder of the series. But don't worry if you haven't been to a session before. It'll be challenging, don't get me wrong. You should be absolutely fine. And just remember, guys, that if you do find a session really challenging, you can always turn your power down. There is the shortcut in the RGT app, the remote app that you can use. Just turn the power, the trainer difficulty down, or you can go into the sensors menu and properly turn it down. Because I think if you use the remote app, it still goes back up when you hit the next interval. Whereas I think if you go into the sensors menu, you can turn down the intensity. So just remember that is there. There is another alternative. You can simply turn erg mode off if you're on a smart trainer or smart bike. But be mindful that I picked a different course, a slightly hillier course, just mainly so we're doing something different rather than we tend to do the kind of really flat courses. So just change it up a little bit. But yeah, for now, guys, just relax. Make sure you're kind of building your leg speed as we go up through the warm-up build. So upwards of about 80 RPM at least, I would say. But yeah, just keep the fluids coming on board, get yourself hydrated. Well, hopefully you should have been hydrated already, but you know what I mean. Particularly if it's early morning for you, or if you've had a long day in an air-conditioned office or something like that, you know, potentially a bit dehydrated. And it can make you feel a bit sluggish being dehydrated. It can make you feel a bit tired. So make sure that you get fluids on board. I know I did a session this morning with our squad athletes, our triathletes, and I felt very sluggish. I was clearly dehydrated. So it took a while for me to get going. Hopefully you're not experiencing that though. So yeah, just a little bit more about the session then. So on to the third step of the warm-up. I'm just pootling around, by the way, usually at around sort of 2 watts per kilo. So we've got the rubber banding effect on, so it should keep everyone together. I know some people don't particularly like it, but if you are working harder, guys, you will move to the front and drive the group on. But obviously, because it's a very hilly course, I want to try and keep people together a little bit, otherwise you can find yourself in no man's land. So yeah, we've got this 10-minute warm-up, the 3 fast pedaling efforts. There's some power behind those guys, okay, so about 115% of FTP, those short little spikes, so be ready for them. And then basically we get into it. So we essentially chop and change in the work intervals between threshold and VO2 max effort. So I'm just getting the full workout out. So I'll just start off with the first block, okay? So that first interval is 3 minutes long, and it's at threshold. Okay, so 100% of FTP should feel like an 8 out of 10 effort, 10 being full-on sprint. You've then got a nice kind of cruisy period, 5 minutes at kind of zone 2, what we call zone 2, 60 or 65% of FTP to be more specific, and you're just cruising there, nice easy kind of 4 out of 10 effort. So after that 5-minute cruise period, we then crank it right up to 4 minutes at VO2 max effort, so 115% of FTP. That's going to be a toughie. That's probably the toughest interval of the session. We get through that and life will improve immeasurably. You've got a lovely 3 minutes of pure recovery after that as well, so just spinning up the legs at about 40% of FTP. Okay, so that's kind of like the first block. Once you're through the recovery, we then hit what we call a tempo effort. So that's 5 minutes at about 80% of FTP. By the way, guys, I don't expect you to remember all this. It's just talking you through. 5 minutes at a tempo effort. Then we go back up to the harder work. So this second block basically is switched around. So the 4 minute effort will be that first one at threshold. Then we've got 4 minutes at cruising level again, and then it's 3 minutes at VO2 max. So you basically got kind of 2 blocks of efforts, and whether the threshold or the VO2 max effort is longer switches round, okay? And then we finish off the session with a tempo effort, which should feel like a 6 out of 10, but I imagine once we get to the end of the session, that'll feel a little bit harder than a 6 out of 10 effort. Okay, but let's not think too far ahead of ourselves. Keep the fluids coming on board. We've just cranked onto the final step of the warm-up. So we'll start getting our brains engaged, start getting focused, get ready for that first fast pedaling effort. And just remember, it's very short. It's 15 seconds, I believe. Let me just double check that one. Sorry, no, 30 seconds. So it's 30 seconds, about 115% of FTP. So there's some juice behind it, guys. So make sure you're ready for both the power and the high leg speed. So what we're looking for is a cadence of upwards of 100 RPM once we get there. But now though, your cadence should be, I'd say, just above about 85 RPM. Okay, so spinning nice and efficiently, just topping off at the top of the warm-up build. Should be at around 70-72% of FTP now. Okay, so starting to get a blow on, but it shouldn't be, blowing a gasket. All right, so it's 45 seconds, and then we kind of get stuck in. Just remember, guys, it's a hard session, so don't expect too much chatter, but do remember that if you want to ask any questions at any point, then feel free to do so. You can do so in Zoom just by unmuting yourself, or you can use the chat function in Zoom. You can use the chat function in RGT, or if you're watching the live stream, you can comment on the live stream and we'll pick them up. The live stream, there's just a little bit of a delay, but we will pick up your comments. So here we go then, guys, just a few seconds to hit the first fast pedaling effort. Let's get ready to rev those legs up. Let's get ready to switch on those fast twitch muscle fibers. Here we go, come on. So, revving it right up now. Try and soften your elbows, relaxing the upper body. Spin those legs up and keep that bum planted on the saddle, okay? So, relaxing the upper body, it's gonna help put more weight on the saddle so you don't start bouncing up and down. 10 seconds to go, all the way through. Nearly there, keep going. Good, and relax. Okay, so that's round one done. So guys, these efforts are not designed to kind of melt you. They're just to kind of weight the legs up. Okay, get you ready for the hard work to come. And to lift your default cadence. So when you first start a session, you might find it's quite hard to get your cadence really where you want to be. I often find that when I first start out, my cadence is kind of just like 70 or, it's pretty low. So doing these fast pedaling efforts, it just kind of raises that default cadence so you sit at higher cadence more naturally. So they're really good to include in every session, regardless of what you're doing. Not necessarily as high powered as this, 80% of FTP is generally kind of where we pitch them. But they are really good for just kind of waking you up a little bit. And you do have to force yourself to do them, particularly if you're on like a low intensity set. Just forcing yourself just to do a couple of bursts can be quite hard to do, but I do recommend you include them in all your sessions just to kind of lift that default cadence so you're pedaling nice and efficiently. Okay, so coming up to round two in 10 seconds. Here we go then. Round two, let's rev it up, let's go. So let's try and get above 110 RPM now if we can. That's halfway, keep it going. Push, push, push all the way to the end. Really rev those legs up, remember to relax in the upper body. And the elbows, the shoulders, so your bum is firmly planted on the saddle, and then relax. So you'll see in pretty much all of our sessions, the warm-up follows a similar kind of structure. We much prefer a build. I know some coaches, when they structure sessions, the warm-up will just be like 10 minutes at 60% of FTP or whatever, but personally I like to start way below that and build up. And I just find it just eases you into the session a little bit better. So you'll see in pretty much all our sessions follow at least this initial structure for the warm-up, and it's not because we're lazy, but there is also, I think, something to be said for repetition in workouts, so that you can just kind of relax a little bit because you know what's coming for at least the first sort of 15 minutes or so before you really need to start focusing. So it's just under 30 seconds, then we hit round three. So your last opportunity really to wake up the legs before we start the hard work in earnest. Got about a minute after this, and then we get into that first threshold effort. Okay, so on this final one, I really like you to top out at sort of 120 RPM. So really rev those legs up on this next one. Okay, here we go, come on, get it going now, guys. Spin those legs up, get them going. Try and relax in the upper body so your bum's planted. Nearly there, last few seconds. and relax. Well done. Good stuff. Okay, so you've got a minute and a half actually of just relaxing. Just get some fluids on board, and then we're going to get stuck in this first threshold effort. So you're going up to 100% of FTP. Should feel like an 8 out of 10 effort, and we're there for 3 minutes. Okay, and as when you're into that effort, I really like to hold a nice high cadence, so upwards of 90, maybe even closer to 100 RPM on this threshold effort. Okay, we talk a lot about cadence in these sessions, and ultimately what we're trying to do is try and kind of prompt you to keep a nice high cadence, and particularly when you're running in erg mode like we suggest for this session, it's actually really important that you keep cadence high and consistent. Otherwise that flywheel, the velocity of that flywheel will slow down and it will get heavier and heavier. I think you probably all know what I'm talking about if you've got a smart bike or smart trainer. So really important to keep that cadence high and consistent, because every time you allow the leg speed to slow and that flywheel slows down, every time you accelerate back up to speed, so to speak, that's extra energy you're expending. So just think about that as we go into this threshold effort in 3, 2, 1, here we go, come on. Lift it, get up to speed. Remember, upwards of 90 RPM, closer to 100 probably if you can. I'm just going to drive our way through it, okay? Even with a small interval like this, always good to try and break it up. So it's 2 90-second efforts or 3 1-minute efforts, however, just break it up in your mind can make it seem a little bit more manageable. Excellent work, guys, keep it going. Should be up to power now. Don't worry if you find this first effort feels horrible. Still kind of warming up. Ideally we'd have a much longer warm up, but I don't think many people will come to a session that's an hour and a half long. Okay, so you're 1 minute down, 2 to go. Keep it steady. Try and relax in the upper body, plant that bum in the saddle. Give the legs a nice strong foundation to work off. Okay, coming up to halfway, there you go, there's 90 seconds to go. Okay, approaching the last minute. You're close, guys, and the power's going to ease right off. Keep pushing, keep pushing. Coming up towards the last 30 seconds. Should hopefully be nice and composed. This central pillar, your whole upper body's nice and steady. You're not rocking and rolling, okay? Nice and steady. Engage the core, keep your frame still. It should just be the legs doing all the work. Less than 20 seconds, go. Final 10. Okay, don't ease off completely. We're dropping down to about 65% of FTP in 2, 1. Okay, so we're dropping down to an endurance level. So it's not completely power off. Try and keep your leg speed above 80 RPM. Okay, you will recover more quickly if you're riding efficiently during this cruise effort. If you drop off too much, like as I was saying earlier, you then have to accelerate back up to speed, and that's extra energy wasted. Might be a bit uncomfortable, recovering at this level. Might take a bit longer, but it's better than easing off too much and then trying to fight against that flywheel, trying to get it back up to velocity. Okay, good. So just now start to relax, keep the fluids coming on board, keep that leg speed above 80 RPM, and just chill. Okay, so that's you've had your first threshold effort. So with these sessions, we look to accumulate around 30 minutes of threshold, supra-threshold work. If we do a lot of work above threshold, we'd obviously reduce that down a little bit. But generally speaking, about 30, if you're doing an hour session, about 30 minutes of threshold work is kind of considered optimal. That's the sort of level where you're going to get the greatest physiological stimulus. Anything kind of beyond that, and you start to really kind of eat into your kind of reserves, and you start to require more and more recovery. Okay, just a little FYI. It's the last session where I talked about how we structure these sets, so I won't go into that again. So just under 3 minutes left of cruising, and then we're going to hit that big one. So it's 4 minutes at VO2 max, 4 minutes at about 115% of FTP. Okay, this is going to be the beast. So the key with these VO2 efforts is keeping that leg speed high. I know I keep droning on about it, and I will keep on droning about it, I'm afraid. But yeah, really important to keep the leg speed high, because this is the sort of effort where you get to the last 30 seconds and you're kind of like this, just out the saddle trying to keep it going. Okay, and that's because you kind of allow that leg speed to drop and you allow it to drag you down. Keep it really high, around 100 RPM for this VO2 effort. Still got 2 minutes though, so stay relaxed. So for those guys that are new to these sessions, just a quick reminder, we also run a Monday evening group ride, which is not structured, and we talk about a specific training topic. So try to remember what the week's topic was. That's how bad my memory is. And then on Tuesday evening, we also run a online strength workout. Head to our website, RIAK.fitness, for more details. Both of those sessions are free. We also live stream them, so you can always catch them up in the sort of week or two after, before we take them down. Right then, let's get focused. 45 seconds until we hit the beast, that VO2 effort. Okay, so make sure your leg speed is decent, and I would suggest, as you get to kind of the final few seconds before we hit that VO2 effort, you lift your leg speed up towards around 90 RPM, so that when that power feeds in, your leg speed has somewhere to go. Okay, you're not already starting at kind of baseline and then trying to go down and having to try and fight your way back up. Okay. Riding with or against erg mode is actually a skill in itself. It's a fantastic training tool, but it does have its downsides. So here we go, last few seconds. Let's just rev up the leg speed, get it to around 90 RPM, so that while the power feeds in, you've got somewhere to go. But now it's head down for 4 minutes of hard work. This should feel like a 9 out of 10. Big effort. Good luck, guys. Kate, drive it on. Nice high leg speed, remember. Around 100 RPM, at least above 90, 95. And just keep it there. Try not to let it drop. Try not to speed up and slow down. Should be a bit of a metronome. Just tapping away. So 1 minute down. Keep pushing, keep driving, guys. You can do this. Right, coming up towards halfway. There you go, 2 minutes to go. Keep driving, keep pushing, come on. You can do this. You then got some pure recovery after this, okay? So you can really relax after this. Just drive here for the last minute and 50 seconds or so. Final 90, push. Come on guys, you can do this. Okay, coming up on 60 seconds. Come on, it's the last final push. Come on guys. Stay strong. You're nearly there. Forty to go. Last 20, last final push, come on. Finish line is within sight now. Don't ease up, keep that leg speed as high as you can. Last 2 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And relax, well done. Really well done now. Down to about 40% of FTP, should feel like a 2 out of 10, but it should be super chilled now. Just get your breath back, recover, and then once you kind of gathered yourself, start to bring your cadence back up above 80 RPM so that you're pedaling nice and efficiently. It will help with the recovery. Okay, so that's basically the first block done, guys. Okay, that's the first round of hard work done. So great effort. Nearly halfway through the session already. Okay, so I'll just give you a second before I start talking about what's next. Always good to have a break. Get the fluids back on board. Gosh, I'm really making that rubber banding effect work hard today, aren't I? As you imagine, guys, I do quite a lot of these sessions, have to be careful about how much energy I expend doing them. But that's one of the beauties of the rubber banding, is that you can keep us all together, see what's going on, so you feel like you're working with or against people. Add a little bit of motivation. So it's about 1 minute and 25. left of the pure recovery, so just really relax, guys. Make sure that leg speed's back up above 80 RPM now. But we've got this next block, so starting off with that tempo effort, so about 80% of FTP, feel like a 6 out of 10 effort. Then we go up to threshold for 4 minutes. So we switch them around, so the VO2 max effort is then 3 minutes, okay? So you've got tempo, then up to threshold for 4 minutes, back down to cruising level, not pure recovery, but cruising level, and then we finish off with a 3 minute effort of VO2, and that's your last really hard effort. So you basically got 2 proper hard efforts left. So just think of it that way. And then you're dreaming. Okay, and then we do finish off with that tempo effort at the end. That's just kind of a finisher effort. Okay. And you'll know what that feels like in a moment when we crank up to tempo. So we're there for 5 minutes. So lift the leg speed just up to around 85, 90 RPM. And let's get back into it. So we're at tempo effort. So anyone that is a triathlete, this sort of 80% of FTP, this type of effort is kind of race pace, or around race pace, at least for a half iron distance race. So it should be familiar to triathletes. Or if you're a racer, bike racer, you'd be surprised how much time you spend at a tempo effort. Particularly if you're doing kind of crit races. Often this is kind of where you roll around, and then it's just all the erratic, chaotic bursts off of this sort of effort. Particularly as you kind of get into the final stages of the race. Usually there's a period where you're rolling strong, not working super hard, and hopefully hiding in the wheels, preserving as much energy as possible, and then it starts to descend into chaos. So it should feel like a strong effort, and it's always a good point to remind you just to relax a little bit, soften the shoulders, soften the elbows, make sure that bum is nice and planted on the saddle, and you should just be ticking over. You shouldn't be busting a gut. 6 out of 10 effort. Also the type of effort that if you're doing a long climb, sort of 10k plus sort of effort that you probably look to hold. And if you've ever ridden something like Ventoux, yeah, very much. Although there's sections of sort of 11+%, and that you just have to get over. But generally speaking, you'd be kind of riding at this sort of effort. If you're interested, this is what we call zone 3. Zone 2 is kind of your pure cruising level, where you'd ride out on your long sort of weekend rides. This is kind of the next step up, although really zone 2 and zone 3 are technically just one training zone, but we break it up kind of arbitrarily, really, to kind of create a bit of structure to workouts, etc. But yeah, really zone 2 and 3 are just sub-threshold there. But obviously as you go up from zone 2 to zone 3, you shift from burning predominantly fat for energy to more and more burning glucose. So as you get more intense, go through the training zones, the type of energy production changes. So right now at tempo level, you still be using kind of a lot of fat for energy, but less so at this 80% of the FTP effort than if you were down at kind of zone 2, which I tend to set at around 65% of FTP. Okay, so just a quick little bit of info. About 80 seconds though until we get stuck back into it. So remember, we're going, this next one's the long interval, so this is the 4-minute interval, going up to threshold for that. So remember, pick up the leg speed before we get there, give your legs somewhere to go. And then all this FTP effort, we're basically into time trial mode, okay? So really do your best to try and keep your leg speed consistent, your cadence, okay? It will help you, I promise. Any effort that you can save now will help you when it comes to that VO2 effort at the end, okay? So that's why we're always droning on about being consistent with your cadence, because ultimately it'll mean you have more juice towards the end of the session. Right, last 30 seconds then, I'm going to crank it up 2 notches. Here we go. Let's pick up the leg speed. Try and get above 90 RPM before power feeds in. Here we go. And try and keep that leg speed nice and high throughout. And consistent, as I say. Come on, guys. Let's do this. Okay, just first little reminder to relax in the shoulders. Put on that bum on the saddle. It just means that you've got a stronger foundation from which to produce power, and just work. Try and keep this central pillar, your upper body, nice and still. Making sure the elbows are soft is a good way of doing that. And just stamping down on the pedals. God, guys, you do such a fantastic job. Just keep it going, try and stay as relaxed as possible, high leg speed, all the little stuff. It's boring, keep hearing about it, but it makes such a big difference as to how you get through a session. Coming up to halfway. There we go, excellent job. So 2 minutes of hard work. Then we drop back down to cruising level. Right, 90 seconds of hard work coming up. You're getting there, guys, you're so close. Don't ease up, don't lose focus, stay on it. Right, now you're really getting there, coming up to the final 60 seconds of this hard threshold effort. To go. Come on, guys. Stay focused. Just think what this is doing for your FTP. This session. You're absolutely pumping it up. 30 seconds. 20. Final 10, nearly there. Remember not to ease off completely when we get to the end. Bit of recovery on the move. Okay, here we go. Good, good. Don't let your effort drop too much. Okay, so keep the leg speed above 80 RPM. It just takes a little bit longer to recover at this level, but you will recover. So stay just concentrated, and your legs will come back to you. Really well done, guys. So that's 3 out of the 4 hard efforts done. We've got just one more effort. You don't need to think about that right now. You just need to focus on just keeping those legs going. Fluids back, get the fluids on board again. Just relax as best you can. Well done, guys. Really well done. So at the beginning of this second block of efforts, we started out with that tempo effort, and that's when I was talking about zone 3 and zone 2. We're now down to zone 2. Okay, so this is a type of effort you want to ride at on your long kind of endurance rides. This is 65% of FTP, and this is where your body's going to be kind of teaching itself to utilize fat for energy more efficiently. Okay, it's important that your long weekend rides are low intensity and you're not getting carried away, particularly if you're riding with mates, because if you do, and there basically becomes no difference between kind of your midweek training like this, where you're flogging yourself to death, if you're then going out and doing it on your long rides as well, you're basically just overwhelming yourself with intensity. So do the hard work here, and then on the long endurance rides, take it easy. Okay, enjoy yourself, have a coffee. You should be able to talk. And that's always when you get to the hills, and it's usually blokes, start getting carried away, start smashing each other to shreds, and then, as I say, the session just becomes another high intensity set, and then that will overflow into the following week, and then you get to a session like this and suddenly you're feeling knackered, got nothing in your legs, and it could be avoided by just not going too hard in your low intensity rides. So just if you're interested to kind of know a bit more about all that, the science session, we did do a session a little while ago on one of our Monday sessions. You can actually find a lot of our sessions on our website. Unfortunately, they're not free, but like these sessions are. But we do cover some really important training topics in depth, and there's always a training file to go along with them. Okay, so worth checking out if you head to the on-demand page on our website, RIAK.fitness. But that's enough of that. 60 seconds, and then we kind of finish this off a little bit. Obviously, we've got that tempo effort at the end, which is strong but not hard. It's this final VO2 effort that we've got to really pay attention to and be ready to do battle. So remember what I've been saying, a few seconds out, really rev up the leg speed, give your legs somewhere to go, and let's just smash this, guys, okay? It's the last big effort of the session, so get yourself pumped up, say whatever you got to say in your head to kind of get you revved up. Imagine a context, imagine you're racing someone, whatever you got to do, but let's get it going. Okay, 20 seconds. Let's make sure we're equal to it. Last swig of water. 10. Okay, start to pick up the leg speed now. Start to rev it up, give your legs somewhere to go. 3, 2, 1. Here we go then, guys, come on. Last big effort of the session. Let's really rev it up. Let's do some damage. Leg speed wise, well above 90 RPM, closer to 100. Okay, and keep it constant. Do not let your leg speed drop. Do not get stuck into pushing a big heavy gear. Approaching the first minute down. Come on, guys, you're doing such a great job. Pure recovery after this. Squeeze out every last what that you've got in you. Approaching halfway. Right then, let's double down. Let's finish this off. Come on, just 90 seconds of hard work. You can do that. Keep battling to keep those legs turning over quickly. You're nearly there. Coming up to 60 seconds, last minute coming up. Here we go then, big final push. .45, you're nearly there, keep it going. Don't ease off now, don't lose focus. Dig deep for the final 30 seconds. Last little nudge to the line, 15 seconds. 10. 3, 2, and 1. Yes, guys. Yeah, well done. And relax. So just chill out. Ease off. Keep the legs turning over. Flush out some of the lactate. But just kind of gather yourself. Well, really well done, guys. That last one, oh, it's always absolutely disgusting, that final one. That takes real kind of determination and mental toughness. So if you got through that well, guys, give yourself a big pat on the back. That's tough. Okay. When we kind of put together this to the limit series, this was pretty much what we had in mind. These mixed threshold VO2 efforts, really kind of taking you to the limit. We're really well done, guys. That's the super high powered stuff out of the way. So we've got just about 2 minutes of cruising, sorry, not cruising, recovering. Make sure use my language consistently. So this is pure recovery mode, about 40% of FTP. Hopefully you're starting to kind of get your breath back, etc. So start to pick your leg speed back up above 80 so you're pedaling efficiently. It will help with the recovery, I promise you. So, and then just 90 seconds. And we've just got this final tempo effort. So it's got this last tempo effort, which is 5 minutes long. And it's at 80% of FTP. Oh no, I think I've been dropped properly now. I eased off too much on the pedals. Oh dear. Oh, no man's land for the rest of the session. So I'm obviously running in erg mode to turn my power right down. I don't intend to increase it. Yeah, sure. So the question was, would I recommend any books for kind of a beginner level cyclist? Yeah, I mean, there's tons out there really. The best book I would suggest, actually, and it is quite an advanced book. So it might not be the most helpful answer, but basically it's a book that is a really good reference, and you can kind of dip in and out of it. You don't have to read every single page to get a lot out of it. But it's called Training with a Power Meter. yeah, training. It's just over there. I can't see it. I think it's called training with a power meter, as we're just cranking up to tempo level again. So this might not feel like a 6 out of 10. It should normally, but with the heavy legs, it perhaps feels more like a 7, I would say. Yeah, we're training and racing with a power meter, I think it's called, by, I think it's Hunter Allen and Andy Coggan, etc. They're kind of like the godfathers of modern training methodology when it comes to cycling. But yeah, that's a really good book, because whilst it goes into a lot of depth about how to interpret data, etc., which you may not be interested in, and to be honest, a lot of it's, I had to read some of the chapters a few times before I kind of got, I'm not particularly known for my mathematical and algebraic capabilities, but yeah, that book, it basically teaches you kind of modern training approaches. So it will talk you about kind of your peak powers. So if you're using Wahoo system and the 4DP methodology, that's all based off essentially this book. This training methodology talks to you about your key powers, which are kind of like your personal bests over different time periods. So that's a really good book. As I say, you don't have to read all of it. There are sections which I think some sections you get more out of than others, and actually the sections where it's more training theory are very easy to understand. It's the sections where you've got lots of graphs and it's teaching you to interpret data that I think are a bit of a snooze fest. I mean, obviously important for me, but for a beginner athlete. Otherwise, I'm trying to think what other books would be useful. I come from a triathlon background, so most of my reading is from a triathlon perspective. But just trying to think. I actually think one of the best places you can go is Training Peaks. They have a training article section, and they're usually very good kind of bite-sized chunks of info. You know, you can learn about peak powers, you can learn about FTP. Yeah, so I always think that's a really good, useful resource, and that's free. Other resources, we actually, if you head to our on-demand, actually if you head to our coaching page, the online page, or the on-demand page on our website, we've got a whole load of free training resources there. So if there are particular topics, we've usually got a training article on it, or a know-how video. And then if you really want to get into more depth, we rent our cycle seminars, which cover a whole range of topics. And it's a session like this where you've got a coach, and there's a workout to go with it, and we basically talk to you in depth about certain training topics. So it depends really whether you want to kind of what kind of resources you prefer to use. Just thinking of, that's a really good question. I'm just trying to think of some other books that might be kind of accessible. I'll have a little think, and if I can come up with something else, I'll let you know by the end of the session. For now though, guys, we're still at 80% of FTP, just coming up to the last minute. I imagine you just want this to be over now, but I always find this section at the end really tough. It's just got about 60 seconds left though. So I didn't actually see who asked that question, but if you've got any particular training topics you want to know about, I might be able to point you, might be able to be a bit more helpful. Don't need to answer now, but once we get into recovery, if there are any particular topics. Okay, last 30 odd seconds. So just keep it nice and efficient, guys. So leg speeds upwards of 85 RPM just to finish off with good form. And then we're into the cool down, and you can chill. Okay, last few seconds. You're nearly there, guys. Really well done. Thanks so much for your company today, guys. And please, yeah, always do feel free to answer questions. Hopefully I'll be able to give a better response next time. But guys, yeah, take the cool down. You've got 3 minutes of just chilling out, and as the note on the screen says, remember to have a nice good old stretch. And we do have stretch routines in our training resources section on our website. I think it's, can't remember whether it's in the know-how section or the training article section, but we've got stretch routines if you're one for one. And then also make sure you have a nice high protein meal after this. Repair some of that muscle damage, stimulate that muscle protein synthesis response, which is always elevated after a session, and even more so if you fuel it with protein. But yeah, guys, if just on the subject of books, if you do, as I say, if you've got particular topics that you want to know more about, I might be able to give you a better steer. In terms of kind of general books, I have to say that training and racing with a power meter book, I think, yes, big parts of it might just be, but I think it is basically the foundation of modern training approaches. So, why not go straight to the source, and then you can just kind of pick out of it what you want to know about, basically. Yeah. Okay. No worries. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, actually, on the nutrition, so the point was about kind of doing longer distance riding and nutritional and GI issues. So if you're interested in kind of some nutrition basics, we did a seminar a few weeks back, which should still be available on our Facebook page. You might have to scroll down a bit. But we did a session a few Mondays ago with Total Endurance Nutrition, who are our nutritional partners, and it was on race nutrition. So there's some really good information there. I actually have been using it. I've used it numerous times since with my own athletes, because there's some really kind of key information there, some kind of in terms of kind of how much carbohydrate to consume, etc., and the types of carbohydrate. I think you might find that really useful. So yeah. If you go to our Facebook page, you might just have to scroll down a fair way. But yeah, there's a seminar there, which I think you might find really useful. Cool. Okay, guys. Well, I'll stick around for a few minutes if anyone else has got any other questions. But otherwise, that's your session, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Make sure, as I say, you get a nice high protein meal on, have a nice stretch, and you also get the fluids back on board. But yeah, I'll just pause a second. I'll stop the live stream.